Oh man, in my head the rest of the night,
It's
soiled.
the rest of the night, tomorrow morning, the weekend. Oh,
Ah,
hello,
ah,
Jes
oh,
Santoro.
hello, Jer.
It's great to see you. This has been a long time coming. You have been,
Have you been avoiding me, or have I been avoiding you?
it's a little of each. It's a little of each. One of the reasons I reached out is because you've been a longtime friend, an old colleague, and a huge supporter of what we've been building on the OhHello side.
Oh, I love
But
it.
also, I am mutually a fan of how much you've been putting yourself out there for the past few months. And I think it really symbolizes and showcases who you are as a leader. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to finally say, Jes Santoro, come and join the OhHello pod.
I think it is a long time coming. Come on, I'm honored. I'm not trying not to take it too personally that so many of our other such trusted and lovely colleagues have made it on here before me, but I was just figuring you were building up to the moment.
I'm building up to the big uns. So with that said, I have the pleasure of knowing who you are, but not all of our fans, listeners, viewers do. You have built a career where you started on the agency side to NBCU to Tube Mogul to Adobe to being the CRO of Cadent, a 700 plus person organization where you are doing a lot and wearing a lot of different hats. But beyond that, you're a father, you're a husband. Tell us more about you, Jes Santoro.
Oh my goodness. Well, you kind of nailed it.
Yours was easy. I knew yours.
I know
without looking.
You ended with the important part. Yes, and it's interesting enough, and not to just jump right into leadership. Like we're all with families, and so a lot of things that we do, and we've had some conversations about some of the things I've been throwing out there lately. But that's all of our anchors. So yes, I'm a very, very happy and proud husband and father of 2, 3 if you count the dog, which has the best life in the house. And I've been at Cadent now for 6.5 years. And this isn't for a sales pitch, more so just that you nailed it. And we've known each other for a long time. And the work that you're doing in your businesses is you get a front row seat of it all. But the evolution of our organization has been incredible. And it really has followed the evolution of the business we all work in, which has been just incredible and at breakneck speed. And so, being part of this industry and being trying to lead people in this industry, it's both a challenge and a blessing any given day,
It is a challenge and a blessing. I agree with you, Jes, for sure. And because we are moving at breakneck speed, being in advertising, marketing, tech, media, there's so much innovation that's taking place on a daily basis. But with that said, help us just understand just what you've seen change when it comes to leaderships, when it comes to sales organizations. You've worn multiple hats. You've been building for many, many years. You've been part of startups. You've been part of big companies and everything in between.
Yeah. I mean, a lot's changed, right? And we could spend an hour just talking about the changes, but I think it's tough to not identify what are the most critical impacts on the business, on organizations, and therefore on leadership styles and approaches has certainly come out of the result of the changes in the office policies and expectations coming out of COVID, right? Like leading up till those events, leading in a more kind of steady in-person and interpersonal environment, it's distinctly different than we have all been faced with as leaders, as just employees from a predominantly virtual environment, and now trying to find our way back in between. Not that leaders can't be successful in both, because you have to be nowadays, just the way that whether it's our organizations or it's our clients' organizations, there's just a different level of focus and rigor and commitment that it takes today. It's always been a focused and rigorous job to be a leader, but I think it's just next level, because the playbook that you may have been able to use in the past of sitting down with a one-on-one or sitting down and trying to mentor somebody, it's different for every single individual now that you might be interacting with. So outside of the changes in the technologies that affected us as consumers and in our lives, I just think that general ability to be with people or not with people has to change the way that you lead them.
Oh, I mean, tremendously different in 2026 than it was in the first 2 months of 2020. And so 6+ years later, we see a difference when it comes to leadership, when it comes to mentorship, when it comes to sales enablement, when it comes to your network, when it comes to access. There's a lot that has evolved, and in a multitude of different ways. As an executive, as a sales leader, what does mentorship mean to you when you are mentoring your sales leaders, your account management teams, your product, your customer success, but also you've been in the space for a long time where you have people that you've worked with for many years that still call you up, and those that you meet on a daily basis when you go into a new sales meeting, when you're flying on you're jumping on a flight and meeting with a big enterprise brand, meeting with a holdco up and comer, and obviously they look to you in a different way because you've been there, you've done that.
Yeah. No, the Paulie Walnuts Grays are dead giveaways that I've been doing this for a while, but and just the Paulie Walnuts reference probably.
Yeah.
You see how that dropped in? No, man, I have been really, really blessed and fortunate to have had some very, very good bosses and leaders above me, either a direct boss or sometimes skip level up leaders that have graciously invested in my growth and development. And what I really have taken through a lot of that, whether it be the good things I've done, the mistakes I've made, recognizing, not recognizing, appreciating, not appreciating, like it takes time and experience and exposure to really understand when you do and don't have something good, right? When I try to distill what it means to be a mentor, which it is directly aligned with leadership, I think I look at it in 3 ways. I think really like 3 steps, I guess I would say. Number one, I think it starts with support. And when I say support, it means like as a mentor, where a person really is and what is it that they are going to need? Like what kind of support do they need? Because it's different from everybody you come across. It could be just confidence support, mental support, like just whatever it might be. And then I think from support, I like to look at it as then once I know that ground floor that I'm working with, then how do I inspire it? And how do I help that person start instilling confidence in the building blocks that we have to think about for them to go from that ground level to their next step and be confident to be able to take those steps. Those can be long journeys depending upon, what we're dealing with. But when you get those blocks in place, the fun part, but it's all fun, but then it's about elevating, so just how do you really then you take that support, you take that inspiration and confidence that you can instill, and then just watching them flourish. And there's nothing more. I feel like some of my folks have just have helped me do that. And so there's a lot to it, obviously, but when I really try to distill it down, it's like, how do I support people well and really understand where they're coming from? How do I then build some level of inspiration and confidence behind that and then just watch them grow?
I really like that 3-step viewpoint and seeing how you call it, plant the seeds, then see the flowers bloom, and then also just taking care of your garden, so to speak, taking care of it. And then like what you put into the garden, you get back, and then the garden goes and seeds pollinate elsewhere. I was picturing a visualization as you were talking through that. Who are some mentors that have made a big impact on you, Jes? Who've helped you get to the executive that you are today?
I mean, the list is long, and I think there's different levels of the support that I feel like I've gotten through my career. But if I had to anchor on a person, because of some of the things that I think they taught me,
it could be friend tours, it could be a myriad of different things. It's your life.
There's a gentleman, Ben Jankowski. I come back to Ben a lot. He's since passed, unfortunately, but Ben was my first boss at BBDO. So my first real job after being an NBC page like Kenneth. But I would say my first real job was at BBDO as in the national buying and media department. And at the time, Ben was actually kind of multifunctional, running planning and buying for a small client group, a client group. What the catalyst of I think my relationship with Ben and my appreciation for him as a boss was shortly in my career. I might have been 3 or 4 months in, so you still don't really know what you're doing. You don't know how to gross things up or net things down, or just all the things that you're trying to learn, media math. Ben had to publish a research piece on the marketplace for his client group. And he sent me running around to research, to a lot of different kind of groups to just kind of pull the stuff together. And I don't remember exactly how I did it, but I know it wasn't in some publishing format. But I remember giving it all to Ben. And remember, this is, so just to date myself, this is 1997, 96, 97. So like I gave it to him and kind of lost track of it. And then about a week and a half later, I walked into his office and there was a binder that was sitting on his desk. And it was what he had sent out to the client group. And on it, it said, produced and published by Ben Jankowski and Jes Santoro. And so that just resonated. I can picture the cover sheet because I just thought he never had to do that. My contribution was running around gathering paper, honestly. And just the fact that he gave me that acknowledgement, it spawned into such an appreciation. And up until, till Ben passed, we would still spend a lot of time together. He's a Temple grad. I'm a Delaware grad. We would bet pizza and beer on every Temple Delaware game. Didn't matter if it was girls soccer, rugby, football, basketball, badminton. Didn't matter what it was. We'd always try to figure out a bet on those. But more so, it's like he knew he gave me the support because I was his ground floor of nothing. He built this amazing confidence in me when he just published that thing, and that gave me this unique confidence to be like, I want to do more of this. I'm going to grow. So I just like, and I've had a number of people that have treated me that way, but there's one that just always come back to.
It's really nice. That was a nice way to pay ode and pay respect to someone who has made a meaningful impact on you, especially at a younger stage in your career, and to be talking about it 29, 30 years later. That's badass. What do companies get wrong about mentorship and employee development?
Oh, I mean, I don't know if it's like companies get things wrong. I think there's a couple of things, right? Like, well, first of all, mentorship, I think companies very often can confuse learning and development and training with mentorship. And they're very, very different. And so I think step number one is you can't think that you're going to implement this unique or wide L&D plan. You're not mentoring your people. You're actually training them. That's skills. That's impersonal with an instructor, right? And I do think a lot of companies sometimes think like, oh, we're empowering our people. Mentoring is very different. And it's a completely different commitment that whether it be a company or an individual needs to make. And that's one-to-one or maybe one to a few, right? And it's about growth and support, not about skill development. It is personal, not interpersonal. It's relationship driven. And so whether it's like companies have or always did make that mistake, I think that's the biggest thing for me. Like those are two distinctly different things. And when you think about just empowering people, training empowers them to be good at their job. Mentorship empowers them to be great people. And so
right there,
I think you have to both, and I don't think a lot of companies do both. And that's if there's a miss, that's where the miss is.
That is such an excellent way to compartmentalize the two. And I truly believe that there is a difference. How important is emotional intelligence when it comes to leadership today, when it comes to developing people, when it comes to just the way that you push, instill, foster, and maintain growth in your organizations?
Well, from a leadership perspective, I think EQ has always been a really vital component, right? I think people want to work hard for people that they trust and truly feel that they're being authentic. And every leader, present company absolutely included, screws things up and gets things wrong, has emotional moments where you're like, I wish I could take that back. We're all human, but I think, Jer, what the challenge is today is that while EQ is really vital, we've also been hit, and I know we've kind of hit this around a bit, like just the amount of the quantity and velocity of data by which we now can collect and analyze. You have to have this unique combination. Like any organization or leader, you've got to have that EQ and you've got to be able to connect with your people, but you also have to really be good at being a metrics-driven organization. I don't think you can get away with one or the other anymore. And I think depending upon your business, I think that you might not have had great EQ, but if you just really knew your numbers and you just drove the business based on metrics, you could probably find your path. And on the flip, I think that there's plenty of leaders that were really, really just intuitive EQ type, highly emotionally intelligent leaders, but they didn't care about data or they weren't good at that, but they could drive their teams that way. But I think in today's day and age, the challenge in being a leader is you got to find the balance. You got to find proficiency in both. Not even balance. You got to find proficiency in both because, as I mentioned, the velocity by which we can collect and analyze data, it's now, if you can't do that, it's a disadvantage, as opposed to where I think maybe in years past being able to do that would create an advantage. But that playing field has been absolutely level.
The chief revenue officer role, the chief commercial officer role, both of those roles, historically, in my perspective, and having worked with each other at two different companies, you could be one or the other, and you didn't see many people that had both the metrics orientation, or you would either have the metrics orientation and you'd be just numbers driven as a CRO, or you would have EQ. And I agree with you that in this day and age, if you can't marry the two, you're not going to be in that kind of pinnacle seat, which has a lot to do with encapsulating and listening to the feelings, emotions of your team, having the emotional intelligence, understanding your client's needs, being able to work collaboratively to those that are left and right of you, those that are above, that are on a hierarchy, so to speak, below. And then when it comes to also knowing inside out, like what the actual numbers are, whether you're working in a private equity based company, if you've raised venture capital dollars from multiple VCs, if you're a publicly traded company, you got to have that. You got to be able to juggle both metrics and people in a true executive leadership role in this day and age.
Listen, the longer that we're in this business and the more experience you kind of gather, yet you have to become comfortable with the fact that you don't know everything. And so as a leader, and I think as an organization, whatever level you are in your leadership journey, right? The challenge is getting comfortable in knowing that you might need help. And so what I found is whether somebody is a subordinate or above you or whatever it might be confident to say, I think I'm good at this, right? I know I might need both of these skill sets and I need to develop a proficiency there, but it's going to be rare you're going to have both at absolute equal footing. And so it's like wherever you're falling short, it's just a matter of, well, surrounding your people with other great people and being comfortable with the fact that this person that maybe they work for me is just better at that. And I'm okay. Like, you got to be okay with that. And then you're just empowering them to feel even more confident about their contribution and their purpose within the organization.
Something that you brought up that I don't know if you realized, that self-awareness. Great leaders that have emotional intelligence and exude that EQ are really critical and hyper aware of their weaknesses as much as their strengths. And they're going to surround themselves with people that make up for their weaknesses.
We're all asked to carry a lot of weight, and in this, whether business you're working in, there's no one that's not being asked to do more with less. There's no one. And that trend line will continue as we get better at all of the automation and efficiencies that are being driven into all of our businesses through technology. So you got to just be able to understand it sometimes. Like when you hit your capacity, a good leader has to better understand then, how do I divert some of this capacity in ways that don't, I can get value but not overwhelm somebody else.
So that's a really good transition to hitting on the next topic, which is just younger professionals. Younger professionals often think that career growth is linear and you just follow this path. Would love to hear your 2 cents, Jes, about what people misunderstand when it comes to long-term success in sales, leadership, and just career development.
Yeah. I mean, I have a couple of reactions to that linear path, right? I think, first of all, nothing's linear. And as we know, and the more you do this kind of stuff, I'm going to get this wrong, Jer, but there's a saying, it's something like, before you're great, you're good. Before you're good, you're bad. And before you're bad, you got to try, right? So all of those, and I kind of believe in that, right? And all of those stages about going from try to sticking with it when you're bad and bad to good and good to great, that's not linear in itself, let alone is it consistent with everybody that's going through whatever they're working on, right? So I think there's a couple things. First of all, tenure does not itself lead to growth and promotion. And some people, that's a bit of a jagged pill to swallow, but that's just life. And so I think as a leader, if you really believe in somebody, you might sometimes have to extract out of them the reality that it's just, there's still a sense of work ethic and accomplishment and development of skills that are required. So that's, I think, one misperception that sometimes comes into organizations like, well, I've been here for 2 years. I'm ready for this next step. Now, a good leader needs to be able to very clearly, and a company needs to be very able to clearly define what those steps are. And that would take away hopefully some kind of miscommunication. But I think it's far from linear. I think there are a lot of components that go into growth. I always fall back if I were to give advice to somebody, and it's also something that I always use in my own little kind of metric on people is like, just have curiosity. Curiosity leads to a lot of the areas of growth and development that you'll find it through curiosity.
It's a solid one. Stay curious for sure. As Steve Jobs used to say, be curious, stay curious. How do you create accountability amongst your org, amongst the people that you've worked with, without creating a fear-based environment? How you create positive energy when you're working with people. People have stuck with you at different companies over and over and over. What's some of the secret sauce?
I mean, the really textbook answers for that are lead by example, hold yourself to the same levels of...
Fuck that, Jess. No one wants a textbook example. Like what's the Jes Santoro example?
Listen, you know what it is? Our kids are around the same age, almost dead on, aren't they? And while they participate in different things, they both have either coaches, some sort of coach, right? Like whether it be theater, whether it be sports, whatever it might be. And so I coach a lot of youth sports. I have been since my son, who's Hannah's age, he's 13. He's in a number of different sports, and some of them I played, so I feel like I'm somewhat qualified to coach him. And so, but I've been doing this now since he was probably 3 or 4 years old. Youth sports has taught me more about good leadership than any textbook or, HBS pamphlet has taught me. There's the simple things, right? First of all, calm is contagious, and positivity always outweighs the negative. And I think one of the biggest things in kind of leading is understanding. So again, like communication, transparency, clear strategic vision and plan. Yes, you got to have all that stuff to successfully run an organization, to successfully run a team. But it really is, how do you really understand that human drive? What are you going to do to empower your people? I bring it back again to curiosity, right? Like let people be them. Great leaders are not trying to linearly define everybody's next step, especially in the world we live in today, which again, just dynamically changes. We are just on tectonic plates every single day. And the shift is happening every day. And we just don't know the magnitude of that shift, but we are living on top.
Got to work on those hip flexors and that flexibility.
But I just think, there's actually a great book. The author's named Daniel Pink, and he wrote a book.
I have a couple Daniel Pinks behind me.
Yeah. Well, so Drive might be sitting on your shelf back there.
Yeah, it is actually.
And yeah. So I actually like that book, and I when I read that book, like any business book, there's a handful of page fillers. You're like, okay, but what did you extract out of that book? It's like, yeah, compensation is important. Okay, we all got bills to pay, but you just need a sense of purpose. Like people need to understand they're contributing to the what am I contributing to when I get up every day and I go into the office. And so, back to your question, like I think leading by example, whether, both and directness, both good, direct, being good and bad is just so critically important to building trust, establishing authenticity, and letting people know that, you're human too.
Jes, this has been an awesome conversation. Any other parting words of wisdom? Anything that we didn't cover that you just want people to hear?
Just how special I think you are. I think, no, man, it's always fun talking to you, Jeremy. And as we've done this for a long time, I think this business is hard. I don't know what business isn't anymore, but every time we run into each other, whether it be at a conference or at one of our business trips, I think we always come back to, boy, it's you can't just say it's not like it used to be. Nothing's like it used to be, but the business is really hard. And the older you get in this business, you realize that it's going to be hard anywhere you go. You'll trade this frustration for that frustration. And what it always comes back to the people. It just does. It comes back to the people. And so, my advice is always just find people you like working with, find a great boss, find a great group. And, certainly when you're younger, just follow that. And just stick with people that you trust. And then that leads to you establishing all those qualities as an employee, as a colleague, as a leader, wherever you are in that, again, your journey, your own professional journey. That leads you to be authentic. Keep it human. I am a true believer in finding the good in people. If there's an Achilles that I have, I actually have plenty of Achilles, but like if one of the Achilles that I have as a leader is I tend to definitely give benefit of the doubt. And I've been burned on that. I've given it almost too far, but I won't change that stance. I think there's good in everybody. And I think that's the human side of it. And on the business side and on the work side, just you have to have clear expectations. You do. It's about being candid and transparent. And at the end of it, try to have some fun. I think, we joke around in the office sometimes. We're just like, how do we put more fun back in dysfunctional? Just put a little bit more, accentuate the fun in dysfunctional a little bit. But I think that's it. I just think, sometimes you lose focus on the fact that, between 9 and 5, we do live in pressure cookers, and we all understand that. And that's what we do. It's we signed up for, so we get paid to do. But people have different lives
and between 5A to 9P, we live in the same pressure cooker.
So I think just, having an understanding that we're all human, we're all going to make mistakes. And as long as the intent is there, I'll get behind anybody that like that anytime.
Jes Santoro, thank you very much. This was a fantastic conversation. And goodbye. We appreciate you, Jes. Thank you.
I love you, buddy. It's great seeing you.
Love
and
you.
I'll see you soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, Jes. Thanks everybody for watching and listening.
Thanks for having me on, bud.